Alright, so the build-up is getting there, basically, and I'm actually getting happy where it's at. Now, at this point now that I did a lot of that, I might get some darker shadows into some areas, or I might mist again. Depends if I went too heavy in certain areas. I definitely got to mist over the heads. It's just a matter of a building up process the way I work. So, basically, might just take some bright flesh. Which is more of a pink, and kind of just hit it underneath. Let's see. So I just kind of, just a little bit of a variation, kind of getting it in there. Alright, so basically, what I'm going to do is maybe let this dry for a little bit, hit up some areas that I kind of messed up on, just to get them all blended back together, and then we'll come back after I think if I need to do some deeper shadows in certain areas, or if maybe it's time to just seal it, or whatever else I figure I need to do as I'm working. Alright guys, next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with some a little bit more detail now in certain areas, really darken up some areas, like underneath the leg in here to try to blend it in with the muscles, maybe underneath the wrappings there, underneath the armpits, just to get some depth in certain areas. So that's just not too crazy, but not too heavy though, because you don't want to go dark here, dark here, dark here, and it's all just like, you know, you want to get into just key areas. Basically, he's blended to where I want him, but now I just want key areas a little bit darker. I'm not going to make it dark under the armpits and dark all the way over here, because then he just starts to look blah. You don't want to do that. You want to kind of just bring certain areas together. So I'm going to set that up. We'll do that now. Go from there. Alright guys, so basically after doing all my little layering and just keep building up and layering, I made sure that the heads are actually looking good with each one you pop out. The next step is going to be sealing this. Now there's a couple different ways I've discovered I like to seal. But before I do that, I'm going to let this dry tonight, really let it set up, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow and see if there's any little errors that I might have missed or anything I might want to change. There's a couple things here and there. But I'll just give you an idea how I like to seal stuff. There's two ways of doing it. There's one way of just using Testor's dull coat, seal it, and then walk away. And then there's another way of actually using Pledge Future 4 polish, spraying it further away to give it really a nice kind of coating, and then using Garage Kit's dull coat to dull that shine. Like I said, there's a couple different ways of whichever way you want to do it, but I'm pretty much happy with the way it looks. Pretty much wanted to get it this way. I got a lot of shadowing in areas, but he's not overly dark. He is pretty much closer to the game than actual, you know, make him all tanned up and, you know, just have a lot of different colors on him, variations. You know, next couple steps will actually be doing the scars, the face, because right now when you do this kind of look, he looks like an alien. And you don't want to overpaint, you know, at this point, because you can actually overpaint something. Then once you add the eyes, the lips, the outfit, you're like, oh crap, I went too dark. So you got to kind of know when to stop and not overly do it. You want to keep it as, you know, close as possible to what you're trying to achieve first. This actually, it's very hard to see it now, but when you do females in this type of color too, you can actually spray too dark, and then once you do the eyes and lips and eyeshadow, then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, it went too dark. So it's something where you gotta just kind of learn how to stop and just know where to go. Now, certain things on him, basically, I did a little bit darker paints here, I did a little bit darker paints down in there a little bit, maybe underneath the leg in here, and maybe under the back in here, because when you're looking at him and turning him around, you get a nice cool shadows going under there. You know, see under there. But like when you lift them up, you know, you might see it's a little bit darker in certain areas, but you know, that's just pretty much it's just the way I like to paint. Just, I guess it's my style and stuff. But so basically at this point, we're just gonna let them set up and dry. If I see any errors before the end of the night, I'll patch them. You know, sometimes you do mess up in little areas in here, you got to kind of retouch. And then after that, I'll show you guys how I seal, and we'll start detailing them up. Alright guys, so basically at this point, I want to seal the skin. Now, some people decide that they like to paint the whole statue, then seal the statue. I actually like to seal the skin and really give it some coats, because if you're like me, sometimes you make mistakes. And the worst part about it is making a mistake on skin tones where you got to repair it, patch it up, and do all that stuff. So I use Testor's dull coat. I actually mark it dull because it's up here, and sometimes I grab the gloss by accident, so I just mark it. Basically what I like to do is I do a few coats of this, like lightly, and then I'll do kind of like a heavy coat. Basically you got to spray far away, you know, I guess we're about, you know, maybe 12 inches away. Do it lightly first, let it dry, and then you can do another coat, let it dry, and then you can kind of do a heavier coat. If you spray too heavy right away, you can actually melt some of the paints. Now maybe you won't melt the skin tone, but the clear versions, the transparents, might melt a little. This stuff's very harsh, very potent. Make sure you do this outside. I'm doing it in the garage with the door open. Also make sure that certain paints this will react to, so just be very careful. But with the skin tones, it works out pretty good. So basically just shake it up, spray it down, just give it yourself the first coat. Now it's kind of wet. If you actually touch it right now, you can pull up the paint with it, so you got to be very careful. Just like I said, this stuff is very potent. But once it seals it up, it's pretty good. You might want to wear a mask even though you're outside with it, because it is strong. So now I let that dry for, you know, a couple minutes, and I'll do another coat. And then after that dries again, I'll do another coat. Like I said, by doing a couple extra coats and making it thick, the reason why I do that is because sometimes if you do edges around stuff, you can actually get away with kind of rubbing it with your finger, or, you know, with some saliva, or like a paintbrush, or even like an X-Acto knife, and you could kind of get away with scraping something off, because this actually seals everything, and it makes your errors and stuff a little bit more easy and manageable. And by putting on a couple of thick coats, all those layers I did start to kind of come out a little bit more, so it actually comes together. So it's just, you know, this is just one way of doing it. You know, it looks a little shiny at the moment, but that's still because it's a little wet. But it gives you an idea. But, you know, I want to get in all the other crevices underneath of it, so you got to be, you know, can't really handle it too much, but you got to get all around. And like I said, if you really wanted to, and you wanted to make a nice thicker coat, you can actually spray far away. Like, this was probably like 12 inches, but if you have your airbrush in a booth maybe like 15 inches away, you can spray like Future 4 polish and get them. They might be a little glossy, it might look more like a pre-painted statue like you get from a factory, but then you can dull coat it, and that actually gives it a little bit more, you know, coating. I might do that with this one. I might do a little bit, I don't know, we'll see, but I just want to get my, you know, Testor's dull coat on there first, because Testor's dull coat really seals. So that's pretty much how I seal. I'm going to have to do a couple more coats, and I got to walk away from it right now because it is very potent. But we'll be back when we're ready to do a couple other steps. Alright guys, so basically he's all sealed up now, and I'm going to work on the scar. I do like to do all flesh tone stuff first, meaning face features, scars, fingernails, everything's skin tone first, and then from there I'll do the eye patch, then the shorts, and all the gloves and stuff. So that's all last, but I'm going to work on the scar. Now the scar on the artwork is kind of like a reddish brown, so I'll be using a lot of transparency stuff, like I have transparent tongue from Garage Kids, I got the pale flesh, I got some brown, so basically I have it up in my little thing here mixed up, and I got water over here, so basically I'll just do some washes and just kind of build it up slowly. I did a little testing over here a little bit, just to get the color right, so I'm just going to go up the thing and just keep going down and just take my time and just going to make it look like a scar. I'm not going to go super detailed and all that stuff. Now, also, if you're really into super details and you really want to get stuff shown, he does have some veins in his arms and stuff, and you can do those in like reds and blues if you really want the vein work to be shown. I like to keep my comic book and Street Fighter stuff where all those veins aren't really too colored too much in a lot of the old artwork, so I'm just going to keep them as is. I just kind of shadowed underneath the veins a little bit so they pop out, but they're not. I don't like the whole color of the veins and stuff on a lot of my stuff, just the way I like to work. But we're going to build up the scar now, and we'll go from there. Alright, so now I'm going to do the fingernails and the toenails and stuff. So basically I just mixed up some flesh tone with a little bit of a yellow and watered it down a little bit. And basically you just do like a wash over them. It'll look bright when it's wet, but it'll dry down a little bit. And what I will do afterwards is do some clear coat over to give a little bit of shininess. If you think you went a little too far with it, you can have a little bit of fun with it by maybe mixing in some darker flesh tone or something. Kind of give it like a worn type look. Alright, so as you can see, I pretty much did all the fingernails and the toenails and all that stuff now. Basically, I gave them kind of like, let's see if we can get away. As you can see, I gave it kind of like a worn effect on them. And I did some clear coats, so they're pretty much like banged up toenails and fingernails and stuff. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. And the next step, and also basically I flattened up the chest stuff. It's a little shiny only because my lights in my studio are really bright. But so that's where I'm at now. And the next step, I'll show you how I do the heads, and then basically we have to just do the shorts and then the whites on these, and that's pretty much it, and he's ready to go. So we'll see you in the next video when I get the heads done and finish them up.